If you have sex as a Christian woman before marriage, does that no longer make you a Christian? Hey girl, hey, how you doing? Before I get into that, I just want to remind you to please be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel along with click on the notification bell. That way you will get notified every Tuesday when a new video drops your way. Growing up in a Christian home, the number one thing was don't have sex before marriage. I always identified with being a Christian, even when I was having premarital sex, even when I was living with boyfriends. I still went to church. I still believed in God. I still, from the bottom of my heart, believed that I was going to heaven. And many Christians out there do. Yet there comes the very firm line and separation from those Christian women to the other Christian women who say that sex before marriage is a sin. It is a sin. It's a sin. So for women who still identify themselves as Christian women, even though they have had premarital sex, what say you about this situation? What about your faith still makes you feel and believe that you can still call yourself that, even knowing that you are deliberately causing this sin? I'm going to talk to you guys based on my personal experience and based on what my personal beliefs were, in hopes that it can give you a little bit more of an insight as to this topic and as to whether Christian women still are Christians even though they have sex before marriage. When I first had my sexual experience, I was in college and I was very convicted. I did not know that I was convicted at the time. I just thought that I was so nervous that I stopped eating and I was therefore starving myself, causing myself to throw up and lose 30 pounds in a 6-week period. Yeah, that really happened. I finally got over it because I felt like the pressure of having an older boyfriend was too much to bear, rather than to stick to my value and stick to my boundary and stick to my personal goal of waiting for marriage. I decided to do it and it was a wrap ever since. So in every relationship that I went on afterwards, I did it. I did not feel this high pressure anxiety the way I did the first time, but there was always something in me that told me I shouldn't be doing this. I'm not saying this because I'm saying it happens to everyone. I'm saying this because this is my story and this is what happened to me. When I started to really get close to God, I started to really form that personal relationship with God, I started to think differently about sex. All of a sudden, I started thinking about not sex in the relationship, not sex to have fun or sex because I wanted it or needed it because my body and my hormones were urging me to have it, but I started thinking about how awesome would it be to have that husband who is just all mine and I'm all his. And then suddenly I started to feel regretful because I'm like, dang, that was supposed to be the one gift that I give him that I gave nobody else. Like that was the treasure that I was supposed to give him and now he has to get these dirty deeds. It was really hard for me to overcome that, but it didn't stop me from being a Christian. It didn't stop me from looking at God, and it didn't stop God from bringing me a really wonderful husband and a very beautiful and blessed marriage. Let me repeat. What you do in your past does not stop God from blessing you today and in your future. So I cannot speak directly to every single Christian woman out there who chooses to have premarital sex because I don't know your business. I don't know your past. And more importantly, I don't know your heart. The only one who can understand that and fully grasp your intentions and your heart condition is God. In my upcoming book, The Christian Woman's Guide to Dating, there's a chapter in here about sex. And quite honestly, it was my most challenging chapter to write about because of my past, because I was not that cookie cutter Christian who saved themselves for marriage. And so now that I have this personal and deeply rooted relationship with God, now that I understand why sex should be kept and preserved till marriage, it was hard for me to talk to both audiences because at the end of the day, we want to say that this act is wrong. We want to say that this act is a sin because according to the Bible, it is. But by doing so, I don't want to say it in such a way that's going to condemn women from believing that they have a chance at being blessed by God, that they have a shot of being close to God, that they're automatically cut off because they sin. Let's face it. We lie, we cheat, we overeat, we overspend, we idolize, people commit adultery, and all of these things fall under the same umbrella as premarital sex. And while I can gush over the details of what I write about in this chapter, I do want to say that there are a few things that I explain very thoroughly in this book, in this chapter on sex, that might help you understand why some people do it and why God sees you doing it differently. The first key is that sex is never just sex. And today's society, we have made it just that. We have said that it is just casual, it is pleasurable, it can become a one-night stand, it can be just a physical act. The other thing is that sex goes way beyond procreation. And back then, I thought as long as I was protecting myself from having children with birth control methods, I thought I would be okay. No big deal. Nobody's getting hurt, you know, when in fact, it goes way beyond that concept of procreation. The last thing that I want to point out is that a lot of people assume that sex does not affect marriage, especially if you are engaging in these physical, intimate moments with somebody who you believe is going to become your marriage partner. What I want to tell you is that after going through it, after being married, after having sex with my husband, and after writing this book, it definitely affects your marriage. It definitely affects your marriage. I know when I was younger, I used to think, well, if I don't have sex before marriage, then how am I going to know that the sex is going to be good once I get married? And that is a common thought. That was a common question that people brought up to me when I told them that Kyle and I were saving ourselves for marriage. That is something that you have to take up with God, because the person that God ultimately gives you to marry should be God's greatest gift that he can ever give you in the world. And so by you questioning whether or not what he's giving you is good enough for your pleasure and for your needs, that's basically questioning God and his skills as God. You just have to trust that he knows what he's doing, you know, because he's God. Again, these are just a few key concepts that I naturally assumed were okay, that I assumed were pretty normal, that I assumed were acceptable reasons as to why I chose to do this thing. But as I got older, as I grew deeper in my word and in God and my relationship with God, as I started to understand what his love looked like, what my relationship with him looked like, and how that reflects every other relationship that I have, I started to really understand, wow, God, sex for marriage is so much deeper and so much more meaningful than just sex before marriage. And I dig into that concept. I dig into why he wants us to wait. And I address both sides of the situation. I address the woman who is waiting for marriage, and I address the women who have made other decisions to do otherwise. I wanted this book not to be a book that condemns the Christian woman. I wanted this book to be a book that points and navigates the Christian woman to God in every and any circumstance when it comes to dating and relationships, including sex. So with this video, I want to kind of close it and end it by saying whatever you choose to do, honey, is between you and God. Whatever you feel in your heart is right and was not right between you and God. And whatever effects or results come from your choice is being ordained by God. I just want to reassure you at the end of this video is that I can't judge you for what you choose to do. Nobody should be judging you for what you choose to do. Nobody can label you as being a Christian or a non-Christian, because it's by going back to God and by having this relationship with him and him telling us how to live life, that's what makes us truly Christians. We are all works in progress. We are not perfect, but we have a God who is. So that is my video when it comes to being a Christian, whether you choose to do this or not in your life. If this helped you or encouraged you in any way, be sure to send a comment to me below, like and share this to other people who you think it might help and might get some benefit from, as well as be sure to order this book. I'll have the link below in the description. That way you can get your hands on it and you can read a little bit more deeper into what I learned and what I wrote about what God says when it comes to sex, whether it's before or after marriage. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching this video. I appreciate you, and I will talk to you guys again soon. Until then, bye-bye.